Today on Locked On Rockies, let's take a look at some of the lines our friends at BetOnline have set out for the Rockies for this season. Plus, keeping an eye on Twitter.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 16th day of March, the final day before spring training games begin for the Colorado Rockies. I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden. I've been following and covering the Rockies for about a year now, but following and being a fan of the team for all 27 years of my life. You can see what I do and a whole lot more at paulfholden.com or catch me on the radio airwaves here in Seattle. Today on Locked On Rockies, we will be discussing some of the lines that I've seen from our friends at BetOnline when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. So we are going to talk about postseason odds. We're going to talk about player end of the year performance odds. And then I want to talk about some win totals that I've seen from a couple of publications as they have published their guesses and their assumptions for the Colorado Rockies when it comes to their performance this year. So first things first, let's head over to betonline.net and take a look at the futures for the Colorado Rockies. Before we do that, I want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on all your favorite streaming services. All you got to do is just search Locked On Rockies. We're also live on YouTube right now, actually recording this. Also, wanted to tell you about our friends at the Locked On MLB Prospects show. So go check that out as well. You want to make sure that you are keeping up to date with all things with the MLB Prospects. Okay, let's head over to betonline.net, and we are going to start in the division. The odds to win the NL West going from the top down. The Dodgers at minus 160, Padres at 250, Giants at 450, and the Diamondbacks and the Rockies have the same odds at plus 5,000. It's not going to get much better than that, folks, when it comes to these lines. I would say, if you want to be crazy, if you want to bet on the off chance that somehow the Rockies catch fire and win their first ever division with this team, go for it. These next series of bets, I would say, would be the most risky bets that you would be taking as the Rockies fans, because it doesn't get much better in terms of future odds. Let's head to the pennant for the Rockies here. The odds to win the pennant. The Rockies, according to BetOnline, have the third worst odds. Yes, the third worst odds to win the National League in a championship series in the playoffs at plus 10,000. Plus 10,000. Wonder what that number would have been a couple years ago. I wonder what that number was last year. I'm sure I could look it up, and I'm sure I could find it, but sorry, I needed a drink there. This is, not a surprise to anyone. I figured the Rockies might be a little bit higher on this list. I figured the odds for the Rockies would be a little bit better than, say, the Nationals, the Marlins. I think the Reds odds are going to plummet here. I think these are they're pretty well updated, but I have pretty strong hopes that the Rockies will probably outperform both the Reds and the Nationals this season. Tough to say about the Marlins. I mean, the Marlins still could make some moves, and I still think the Marlins have a lot of interesting pieces. Plus, the Rockies are just bad against the Marlins. They can't go to Miami and score more often than not, and they seem to struggle with the fact that playing those fish, playing those dang Miami Marlins. So that's one thing I would consider. But Rockies are right where they are. The Pirates and the Diamondbacks, again, being the only two teams below them in terms of odds, not too surprising. The Rockies do have a better odds to win. They only have one set of odds better. They only have are more likely to win the National League than the Orioles are in terms of these lines at BetOnline. The Orioles are the only American team with worse odds to win their division than the Rockies. The Royals and the Athletics both are 5,000 points below the Colorado Rockies to win their division, in case you're wanting to get into an idea of how these people are setting the props and the ideas for the Rockies here. Not looking too good there. And of course, let's finish it out here with the wonderful odds to win the World Series. In case you're curious, the Dodgers have been leading most of the categories. The Dodgers got a plus 575 to win the World Series right now. According to our friends at BetOnline, the Mets follow at 750, the White Sox at 1,100, the Astros 1,100, and the Blue Jays at 1,100. I think the Blue Jays will go up, especially considering they just made more moves today. Rockies are not in they don't have the least amount of chance to win, but they are out of the top. They are in the bottom five at plus 20,000. The Orioles at plus 25, the Diamondbacks at plus 30, and the Pirates at plus 30. The Nationals, the Royals, and the Cubs, as well as the Athletics, Reds, Marlins, Guardians, all better chances. What's interesting, what I'm taking away from these initial reads from these lines, obviously, you're not shocked to hear that. Obviously, you're probably sitting here like, why are we talking about World Series odds when we kind of know the state of this team? It's a narrative. It's the narrative, and it's the idea of the Rockies in the mainstream and on the big picture that gets lost. I'm not trying to sit here and say the Rockies deserve a lot more respect. They deserve a lot better odds, because that's really not the case. But I do sit here when I look at these odds, and I do look at how people consider the construction of some of these teams, how the Rockies are in a worse spot than, say, the Royals, the Reds, the Guardians at this point. I don't think any of those teams are doing anything that makes you think that those are better teams than the Rockies. I don't know necessarily what those teams have more so than the Rockies, especially when it comes to the players on the team and in those leagues. But scratchy throat today. Anyway. We're just looking at the projected full seasons from. Is this the updated one? I'm trying to get the updated one. Anyway, do those teams like when you, as a Rockies fan, do you think the Rockies are in worse shape than the Royals, the Athletics, the Reds, the Guardians, all those teams that have? I mean, the Athletics and the Reds have basically traded half of their team, if not all of their team. It's a different mindset. It's a different idea. Let's talk about some player futures here for the Rockies, and we'll dive into the over-under on the win totals as well. But before we do that, I got to tell you about some of the folks that make this whole podcast possible, and that starts with Mission Possible. Are you ready to discover your purpose and leave an impact wherever you go? Mission Possible. Written and read by New York Times best-selling author and Denver Bronco playoff game winner, Tim Tebow. He encourages you to find your inspiration, pursue your purpose, and create a life for yourself that counts. Ignite a new spark in your life through this new inspirational listen. Mission Possible by Tim Tebow is available everywhere audiobooks are sold. Again, Mission Possible by New York Times bestselling author and Denver Bronco, Tim Tebow. So we are talking the lines here for some Rockies players from our friends at BetOnline. And let's head over again into now we're going to talk about some of the big individual player awards. And we're actually going to start with one that I think has the most likely chance of happening. The odds aren't great, but I'm just saying when you look at what could happen, the potential to happen, and the current construction of the Colorado Rockies roster, this is the most likely one bet to happen. I mean, it really truly is. and that's in the 2022 National League Cy Young winner. German Marquez is on there at plus 4,000 odds. He's very far down on a list that includes Jacob DeGrom, Corbin Burns, Walker Buehler, Zach Wheeler, Max Scherzer, Banjo Woodruff, Carlos Rodon, and Max Fried. DeGrom at plus 450, Corbin Burns at plus 750, Walker Buehler 750, Wheeler at 800, Scherzer at 900, Woodruff at 900, Rodon at 1,000, and Fried at 1,400. German Marquez comes in at plus 4,000 in between Marcus Stroman and Patrick Corbin, who both have similar odds. Ian Lopez, Pablo Lopez, Yu Darvish, and Charlie Morton are some arms that are in the close range to German Marquez. Is it possible that German Marquez wins a Cy Young? Yes, it is. I truly think that German Marquez, when at the top of his game, is one of the best pitchers in the game. I really, really, really believe that. Now, it's because we saw it. We saw German be one of the best pitchers in baseball last year when it came to when it was close to the All-Star game. That's how he got the All-Star game nod. That's how he was the Rockies representative. So we have to sit there and say this is the most official, official best bet, quote unquote, for the Colorado Rockies. If you're looking to place some of these future bets, if you're looking for your most likely thing to happen when it comes to putting this bet down, this is probably it. Is it going to happen? No. Not really. I would love it. I mean, if German Marquez ends up being a Cy Young winner and comes out and just has a dominant year, that'll have a drastic impact on the Rockies and their success this season. But to outduel all those other arms and all those other markets and all those other teams and the performance of those teams, that's going to be very, very tough for German to do. So, interesting enough that it's not at the bottom of the list. We're not seeing like a Rockies player. Again, we were seeing that there's plenty of arms below German Marquez, but plenty that share similar odds. Really the next chunk of arms comes in at plus 5,000 odds, then plus 7,500, plus 800, and then plus 10,000. So not necessarily the best odds for German Marquez. I'd say fair odds for German Marquez to win the Cy Young, not at the top of the list, and a real risk if you're going for it. Some American League arms that have similar odds to German: Eduardo Rodriguez, Casey Mize, and Marco Gonzalez. The same with Noah Syndergaard. So that kind of puts you, if you're looking for kind of an AL comparison when it comes to betting lines in the AL there. So German Marquez with the best Rockies odds we've talked about so far. Let's head over to the most valuable player award over here. And we're going to scroll down to the National League. Do the Rockies have any representatives on this list? They do indeed. Charlie Blackmon is on the list at plus 10,000 to win MVP. Now, that would be something. A DH winning MVP would be something that would drastically change the landscape and the identity of baseball. So I'm rooting for it. I'm hoping for it. I'm got my hopes set pretty low on Charlie Blackmon being the MVP. In fact, kind of surprised out of all the Rockies players to list and put on that list, Charlie Blackmon was the one that was added and actually was given the odds for the future bets. Maybe they were just looking for some fun, bigger names to kind of build out the line sheet there, but don't make this bet, folks. I mean, there's just nothing that would even give you the hint, the inkling, the idea that Charlie Blackmon could even sniff something like the MVP award this year. I love Charlie Blackmon. Don't get me wrong. But again, someone that's going to hopefully be primarily playing DH this season and not really, in the prime of his career anymore. I would say, 10,000 on the line for National League MVP is a fair assessment of Charlie Blackmon's chances to be the National League winner for MVP. But if you're curious, top of the list for National League MVP, Juan Soto at plus 300, Bryce Harper at 600, Ronald Acuna Jr. at 700, Mookie Betts at 1,000, Pete Alonso at 1,000, Trey Turner at 1,200, Francisco Lindor at 1,800, Manny Machado at 2,000. Christian Yelich still in the top 10 when it comes to lines, are the most likely to get in there, which is interesting after how down he was last year. So maybe that'll help with Yelich's bounce back that he's looking to have, I'm sure. Heading over to the American League, Shohei Ohtani at plus 300, Vladdy Jr. At 400, Trout at 500, Judge at 1,200. How is Aaron Judge popping up into the top 4 in MVP futures? That is a Yankee bias line right there. That is a Yankee bias line right there. Aaron Judge, compared to these other players, Wander Franco, Jose Ramirez, Bo Bichette, Corey C. There's plenty of other players that I would say have a better chance of winning the AL MVP than Aaron Judge, Luis Robert, and plenty more on that list. But that gives you an idea of where BetOnline is standing on MVP. In case you're curious, old friend Nolan Arenado is also on this list at plus 3,300 for MVP, and teammate Paul Goldschmidt at plus 5,000. So that two pieces of the same infield in there, potentially, if Trevor Story ends up over there as well. We are making sure that we are refreshing Twitter, and we are doing our best to make sure that we be up to date in case anything drops live here on the show, but nothing so far other than the big trades between the A's and the I'm sorry, I'm typing something. The A's and the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays just got a heck of a lot better this season with the way they are adding more to do to their team. The Jays certainly going after a World Series contention window grasp. The Jays are going to be a really, really fun team to watch this year. They're going to be one of my favorite NL West, or not NL, AL West teams to sign, or to watch, I should say. Why do I keep saying AL West? I'm all over the place. I can't be looking at too many things at once. AL East teams, but just teams in general to watch. I think they're going to be a ton of fun, and I'm hoping to catch them when they come through Seattle here. Seattle has some fun stuff too. There's a lot of fun teams. And again, you can check out more great betting lines over at betonline.net. If you want to find more about Rockies lines and a whole lot more, you can go check that out at betonline.net. BetOnline, not the only friends of the show. Got to tell you about our friends at Rock Auto. Rock Auto is the place for all the car and truck parts you could ever need. Stop going down in the store. Stop wasting your time when you're going down to and just telling them and letting the person do the work on the computer for you, when you can be doing all of that by yourself at your home on your own clock by your convenience, and you can save time and money when you do so. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer, and they have everything you could ever need. Brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. And when you head to rockauto.com right now and you see all those parts available for your car or truck, make sure you write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. An amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. That's rockauto.com. All right, we've been talking a lot about betting lines for the Rockies, and no surprise there. None of them are very positive. None of them are making you jump out of your chair, leap for joy, super excited, and it does paint the picture of the state of the Rockies. I will say, like I mentioned in an earlier segment, I think these lines again show the fact that while the Rockies haven't given them much to pay attention to in the past couple of years, the Rockies are a team that doesn't get paid attention to by everyone when making these odds. I think there are worse teams in baseball than the Rockies. I really do. I think when you look at the projections and the feelings about the Rockies, it makes more sense because of the steps back they took this year for some of these win totals. But this isn't necessarily a bet online thing. And I saw this mostly from Fangraphs, and Fangraphs does great work with all their projections and things. They are great at the data. In their 2022 projections, I saw that the Rockies are projected 65 wins. 65 wins by the Rockies this year. And if this isn't a line from BetOnline, but if it was me, I'm taking the Rockies over 65 wins. And why am I taking the Rockies over 65 wins? And it's not by much. It's not by a ton. The Rockies are not going to be a 100-loss team. The Rockies are not going to win 80. They're not going to win 80 games. They're not going to win, I would say, the highest I am willing to go. And this is if I'm being pushed and if the Rockies pitching rotation is good and the offense is, if Jose Iglesias is able to actually reconnect and rekindle and become a player part of the past, I think the Rockies maximum ceiling is 75 wins. And that is if things go right. That is the team is better on the road this year. That is a team that is led by 3 good starting pitchers and is able to get performance out of young arms in the back half of the rotation or from some of these free agency signings that they've made. And the Rockies will be a better team if they do, in fact, add one of these bats. I mean, the Rockies took a major step back with losing John Gray and Trevor Story. They're now not in the position I thought they would be. I think getting a veteran to play shortstop instead of turning to Trejo early is the better call. And there is still a possibility, even though Kyle Schwarber, the big news in terms of Rockies fans of free agency signing so far today was Schwarber heading to the Phillies. So that now shrinks the outfield power bat market even more. The Rockies very aggressive on Chris Bryant, according to things. They're very interested. Actually, I shouldn't say maybe very aggressive, but the Rockies are very interested in Chris Bryant. What that means, I don't know. Some people are speculating that he's using the Rockies as leverage for other people. The Padres might be in on some people, and the Dodgers are adding people. The Rockies are definitely in over their heads this year. But I don't, again, just like last year, I think there's a lot of doom and gloom about people with the Rockies that don't necessarily follow and understand how good this team can be at home and the potential that still is on the roster. It's not a great roster, but there's a lot of good pitching on this team, especially from the starting rotation. And, if players that have the bounce back years that the Rockies bring in, that adds a little oomph, that adds a little flair. If Iglesias is a contact, hitter that can increase his batting average in line into something like he was at the end of the season last year, that's going to be very effective for the Rockies in scoring runs. Still not going to help you get past 75 wins. I think 75 wins is the absolute ceiling. I don't think the Rockies are going to make any form of an extended playoff this year. I think there's going to be too many good teams. There's too many teams that are going to finish above 500 in the mix there as well. But the Rockies are going to be better than this 65 to, I feel like I've seen like 62 to 65 win projections for the Rockies from a couple of places. I think Fangraphs had them at around 65 wins, and I would take the over. I wouldn't take the over by much. Again, I'm putting my optimistic, super positive outlook at the Rockies at 75 wins. Realistically, I got the Rockies hanging in that 68 to 72. I kind of like the nice round number. I got the Rockies at 70 wins this season. I think that is a fair estimate, especially with how much they play at home. They do play teams outside of the division really well. I think we're going to have a nice, strong year from the starting arms. I think they realize how important the starting rotation is this season. So that's it. So if you want to, try and wager some money, try to win big on the Rockies, you can put them on those crazy odds that they have to win the World Series in the division. But I would save your money and look around betonline.net for more smart bets. There's better, more efficient bets to make out there than betting on the Rockies' chances for a Cy Young MVP or a World Series title. We'll be talking Rockies all season long and all off season long. We're all here as we keep rocking and rolling ever closer. Less than 24 hours from the Rockies taking the field for the first time officially in 2022 as spring training games start tomorrow. We'll be talking about that and a whole lot more here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We'll be back in action tomorrow, like I said. And we got a fun Friday episode planned for you as well. It's going to be a little mix-up. It's not going to be necessarily super Rockies focused, but we'll talk a little Rockies baseball as well as we always do. But wanted to sneak in a nice, fun Friday pod about that I think a lot of you are going to enjoy because it's something I bet a lot of you baseball fans spent time growing up doing. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. Go make Locked On Bets your second listen of the day, or Locked On MLB, and learn a whole lot more about betting and baseball with two great podcasts. I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. You can find me at Paul Holden 33. You can find the show on YouTube and on Twitter at LO Rockies. You can also leave us a 5-star review and subscribe on your favorite podcast service. Until next time. I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.